welcome to our feature interview segment, joined today by Sergeant Josh Moulin from the Central Point Police Department. Josh, thanks a lot for coming down.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And you head up the high-tech crime unit, right, at Central Point.
Right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the department, a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure. We have what's called the Southern Oregon High-Tech Crimes Task Force, which is a multi-jurisdictional task force between the City of Central Point Police Department and the City of Medford Police Department. And we both assign personnel to the task force, and our main objective is to investigate and prosecute people involved with high-tech crimes.
You bet. How many officers from Central Point are involved?
Just one person from Central Point, myself from Central Point.
Very good. So we're talking about high-tech crimes. Typically, these fall into really two categories. Is that right, for the most part?
Well, we do a lot of, our number one caseload is online sexual exploitation of children, unfortunately, and child pornography, and then after that, we do a lot of investigative work for narcotics cases, online identity theft, and then major assaults, sex abuses, and things of that nature.
What kind of cases do we see most often here in the Rogue Valley?
The most cases that we self-initiate, where we actually identify the people ourselves, is online child exploitation. After that, then it is just a myriad of different types of cases that people send to us. Our task force is kind of unique because we have a proactive side that goes in online undercover, identifies people in our area, and we identify them. And then we have a reactive side where agencies, we do work for over 30 agencies, and they bring us digital cameras, computers, laptops, and whatever else, cell phones, and they ask us to sift through all the data and find evidence for them.
Wow, so very much like a lot of people may have seen on Dateline or some of these TVs or shows on TV, you guys really go online to try and find these guys.
We do. We have special software and hardware that allows us to go in undercover online and identify people specifically in our region that are using the internet for criminal acts. And
then how do you go about apprehending them after that?
Well, once we identify who they really are, it depends on the type of case that we're working. Most of the time it is child pornography. Then there's certain elements of crimes that we have to meet in order to arrest them, but once we identify a target and we have met the elements of those crimes, then we will arrest them. Oftentimes it involves us serving a search warrant to try and get all their computers and other digital evidence that would have information that would support our case, and then we put a package together and give it to the district attorney's office.
And I imagine the need for this kind of enforcement is growing as more and more people are getting into a digital world as far as ID theft goes, and also MySpace and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There are really no limits to criminal activity and technology. Whether the computer or cell phone was used to actually commit the crime, or sometimes some piece of technology will have nothing to do with the crime, but the suspects will have information on it, maybe an email that they sent back and forth, or a journal or something.
See, that's interesting information. I want to talk to you more about that and about what folks can do to kind of keep themselves safe. So we'll have much more with Sergeant Josh Moulin when we come back. Stay with us on NBC 5 News. And welcome back to our feature interview segment, joined by Sergeant Josh Moulin from the Central Point Police Department. And we're talking about high-tech crimes, and we were talking about how the need is growing. What are some things that folks can do? First of all, for parents, as far as maybe worrying about their kids online.
Sure.
And then maybe we can go into some tips for protecting yourself against identity theft after that.
Absolutely. We get a lot of questions by email and phone from parents saying, I'm really worried about my child being online. What are some things I need to know? We have a lot of tips on our website, which is hightechcops.com, and that has a bunch of download forms and everything that parents can go to and get. But the main rules is make sure that you know what your child is doing online. A lot of children don't report problems to their parents because they don't feel like their parents are going to understand what they're experiencing. So make sure you know what your child is doing. One of the big rules is not to have an internet-capable computer in your child's room, because if they're in the room, sometimes they get into areas that they shouldn't be. And what we see time after time is children get on the internet and they think that they're only talking with other kids, but in reality there's all these sexual predators out there looking for kids online. MySpace recently came up with the number 29,000 sex offenders that had MySpace pages.
Wow.
And I think there's probably more than that. That's just the ones that they could identify. So making sure that you look at your child's MySpace page or any other social networking site from the perspective of a criminal and not of a kid. So when you look at the pictures that your children have, make sure they're not real close up where somebody could easily identify them. Make sure they don't have their phone numbers or addresses. Maybe a picture in the background of a photo, there might be a license plate that somebody could go down and find out where that's registered to. Just all those types of things that parents should really do to be vigilant in
if they need that
safety.
little bit of extra incentive to get involved in their kids' safety, these things do happen locally.
They do. We've had several cases that your news station has even covered where we have found people using MySpace and other sites to find kids and try and contact them for sexual purposes.
You bet. And I'll bet you guys also just have some standard rules and tips for folks as far as keeping themselves safe from identity theft as we send more and more emails and all those sort of things.
Yeah, identity theft is another big thing that people are really worried about online. And, of course, make sure phishing scams is the #1 thing. So when you get an email, just remember your financial institution is never going to send you an email asking for your account numbers and all that. So don't ever reply to any of those things. And another problem is farming, and that's with a PH, and that's where somebody will create a website purporting to be real when it isn't. And a great case or example of that was when somebody made a redcross.com website instead of redcross.org. So people went there during Hurricane Katrina. They donated tons of money to redcross.com, and it all went to criminals instead of the real organization. So just make sure that you really are where you think you should be on the internet. And don't email documents to people that you don't know who the recipient is. And if you use file sharing programs, a lot of people use programs like LimeWire or Kazaa or BearShare or something to share music. Well, just be aware that that can also share files on your computer that you may not want to have shared, like your taxes and documents like that.
That's stuff you generally want to keep to yourself.
Yeah,
so give us the website one more where folks can go to learn about this.
www.hightechcops.com.
Perfect. We'll get that up on the screen for everybody. Sergeant Moulin, we really appreciate you coming by.
Anytime.
Giving us some high-tech safety tips. And stay with us here at NBC5 News. We'll be right back.